Statistics reveal that 16% of the aquaculture population in Kenya is made up of the catfish. This is according to Infonet Biovision. Catfish are aqua species with no scales. The sweetness in their flesh makes them a source of food across the world. On today's episode of Fish Business, we feature John, a catfish farmer who rears this type of fish in his concrete pond in Karen. So why should you rear fish? Fish farming is important as it comes with several benefits. This includes source of good quality protein-rich food, source of income to farmers and revenue to the government, creates employment opportunities, contributes to national food security and optimizes use of water resources. John unleashes his reason for rearing catfish.
Fishing, especially catfish, is a source of protein. That's the first objective. We keep fish for the source of protein because when the customers buys the catfish, it will help them to have the protein in their diet. Also, we as farmer, we sell the catfish to get also the income. Also the water from the fish ponds, when we are draining, we use it as a fertilizer, foliar fertilizer.
Catfish is uniquely characterized. This is evidently seen as it grows very quickly if adequate high-protein feed is available. It also has fewer bones. This is to mean it has higher fillet percentage than tilapia. This makes them economically advantageous.
Now the rearing of the catfish is very cheap than the tilapia. You need just to get the fingerings, you put them in the pond. This one they feed on natural foods like planktons and those other plants in the water. So the rearing is not difficult as for catfish. Catfish you need to bring the feed. This one you can rear natural.
The housing of a fish pond is very significant in ensuring the growth of the catfish is of the standard rate. Before knowing the kind of structure this fish requires, you need to bear in mind that catfish are cold-blooded animals. This is to mean that their body temperature is dependent on the temperature of their surroundings. Moreover, another important factor is that the catfish are omnivorous. Omnivorous refers to the ability of the catfish to feed on both plants and other animals. This includes their fellow catfish. John has 2 ponds for the catfish. He explains why.
Most of the catfish species, most of them they are carnivorous, meaning the big catfish will eat the small catfish. So the farmer should do the separation. You do the sampling first. You know which catfish has grown than the other. You can separate the big one from the small one. You avoid the carnivorous habit.
There are several types of fish ponds. Fish ponds are determined by several factors, namely their source of water, the way in which water can be drained from the pond, the material and method used for construction, and the method of the use for fish farming. According to John, his choice of fish pond lies under the materials used for construction. This type of ponds that fit in this category are earthen ponds, whose entire construction is done by use of soil materials. Secondly, the walled ponds that are generally surrounded by walls, bricks and concrete walls, and finally the lined ponds. The lined ponds bear a special characteristic of being made up of soil material with a plastic or rubber sheet lining.
Farmers in the communities, most of them, they use the underground ponds. The one you dig in the soil, then you put the liner, then you put water. That's one method. Then the other method is using the tanks to raise the fish.
It goes without saying that the catfish needs water. Water is a key component in the aquaculture world. It helps in keeping the health of the fish in check, as well as aids in the performance of the aquaculture production. Of importance to note is that good water quality refers to what the fish need and not what the farmer thinks the fish need. As a result of the fact that the catfish is cold-blooded, the water temperature has an effect on their body temperature. This is to mean, in this case, the catfish require water that is warm as they are found of warm temperatures. John emphasizes on this.
Water is very important factor to consider, especially temperature and quality. Most of the fish species in the fish farms, we use clean water.
When it comes to aquaculture, the type of water varies between freshwater and salty water. The freshwater refers to the water that has no salty characteristic, while the salty water refers to the water with salty nature. Catfish requires very clean fresh water in the ponds. This can be, however, challenged by the presence of turbidity. Turbidity is the aftermath of fine solid particles that are suspended on water. This is brought about by the presence of mud in the fish pond. To avoid this, you can treat the affected ponds with animal manure. This helps to improve the soil pH and water alkalinity. Fish pond water for your catfish needs to range between 6.5 to 8.5 pH. Since water is generally neutral, the soil alters with the pH of the water. In the case of John, he uses chicken manure that doubles up as feeds. The fish pond water needs to be exchanged periodically. An outstanding aspect of the catfish is the ability to breathe in atmospheric oxygen. This refers to the air in our surrounding. However, John stresses on his weekly routine to change the water. As an organic farmer, he goes ahead and uses the water on his farm garden as a rich source of nitrogen needed for the crops. There are other fish ponds with pond inlets and outlets for the sole purposes of water circulation. The inlets allow water inside the pond, while outlets assist in allowing complete draining of the pond. It also helps in keeping the water level at an optimum level.
Make sure you have the outlet for the ponds. And the one way of maintaining the water, we have the outlet. So we normally drain water every week. Most of the times we do it on Sundays. And the water we use for the crops because it's a foliar which is rich in nitrogen due to dissolved ammonia. Ammonia is excreted by catfish. The catfish droppings, they have the ammonia. So when they excrete that ammonia and it mixes with the water, it has the dissolved nitrogen which is useful for the growth of crops. That's why we use the pond water. Amount of water should not go below 1 meter depth. Yes, because when you put too much water, it will it will bring the cold conditions to the pond, and the catfish will be dormant and it will not feed. And when it does not feed, it will not grow. That's one disadvantage of having the much water. When you have the little water also, the catfish does not like direct sunlight. So it needs to be protected from being exposed to sunlight. So the farmer should maintain water level at all time.
The catfish farmer practices this draining process by pouring all the water to the drum or by use of pipes connected to his vegetable farm.
We have two methods. We can put the pond water in our drums for use in the farm. Also, we can connect the outlet with the pipe and we can use the water to the farm. That's how we do the draining of the ponds. But we don't remove all the water. You have to remove very little for the fish. Yes.
When draining the water, John ensures he has left some little amount of water in the pond.
You make sure you remain some little water in the pond for the fish to survive. They cannot survive in the open environment. So they need to burrow in a certain environment, like muddy or water.
As a result of the cold-blooded nature of the catfish, John ensures that the temperature of the water remains warm night and day. A way he does this is by use of plastic lining on the walls. This helps to retain the warmth. Moreover, he has established the two ponds inside of this greenhouse structure. The temperature of the fish pond should be 24 to 30 degrees Celsius. The emphasis on water is simply because it assists the catfish in better performance, in return resulting to more profit for you. The warm water temperatures accelerate the metabolism and movement rate, increases the rate of breathing as well as the feeding rate.
The lining, we use the dam liner. Dam liner is very important. it will provide extra warm condition to the pond. It will help to maintain the water temperature. That's why we are using the black polythene, which is dam liner. Also, it will help in case the pond has the leakage. The water is well maintained at required level. That's why we use the liner for the ponds. Then also the environment. The catfish does not like cold weather. It grows well in warm climate. That's why we put the greenhouse paper to provide controlled conditions for the layering of the catfish.
Space is vital for the catfish to swim around and about. The size of the fish pond depends on the amount of water available, the target production, and the available capital. For John, he prefers the height of the fish pond to be 1.5 meters. The width and length is according to the preference of the farmer.
The whole measurement, it depends on the demand of the catfish. If the farmer has big demand, you can increase the pond size.